that I will achieve. Because I do the things I should, between my brethren, kind and good. So I'll keep moving on. I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on till I reach the top somehow. So whatever my mind can see, that I will achieve. Because I do the things I should, between my brethren, kind and good. So I'll keep moving on. I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on till I reach the top somehow.
The views and opinions expressed by the host or
So whatever my mind can see, that I will achieve. Because I do the things I should, between my brethren, kind and good. So I'll keep moving on. I won't stop now.
The views and opinions expressed by the host or presenter and by participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions of ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation, its shareholder, or its affiliates. The opinions of the on-air guests or participants are based upon information they consider reliable, but neither ZBC nor its shareholder nor its affiliates warrant their completeness or accuracy, and they should not be relied upon as such. The views and opinions expressed by the host or presenter and by participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions of ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation, its shareholder, or its affiliates. The opinions of the on-air guests or participants are based upon information they consider reliable, but neither ZBC nor its shareholder nor its affiliates warrant their completeness or accuracy, and they should not be relied upon as such.
Past the 8 o'clock hour in St. Kitts and Nevis and throughout the entire Caribbean region. And right here in North America, it's 5 past the 7 o'clock hour. And it's time for me to say good night to my fellow Kittitians and Nevisians and to everyone throughout the entire Caribbean region. My Straight Talk family in the Kittitian and Nevisian diaspora, I say greetings to all who are logged on to the World Wide Web. And as I broadcast earlier today, there are some changes in that you'll find Straight Talk on the Ian Patches Liburd Facebook page. Just enter Straight Talk with Ian Patches Liburd, and then you will also be live. Just spread that word. Spread it to the whole wide world. Share the link and tell everyone that Straight Talk is live on Ian Patches Libur's page. There have been some changes and we have to work around those changes. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, I welcome you and apprise you of the fact that Straight Talk is a public service, online public service program. We do community work by addressing all the issues of national interest, be they legal, be they environmental, be they technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On Straight Talk, you do have a forum to express yourselves freely. Let us in the process continue to keep St. Kitts and Nevis as one of the freest countries in the entire universe. On this program, we tried to raise the level of national consciousness. We tried to raise the level of national discourse by alerting our people to their rights, to their responsibilities, and certainly to their obligations. My name is Ian Patches Liburd, and I give Almighty God thanks for blessing me with yet another opportunity to join you, my Straight Talk family, on yet another occasion. And we tried to raise, I said, the level of national discourse. We tried to raise the level of national consciousness. And in recent times, I want to, so to speak, change the structure of our programming. We tried to address the obituaries, and I've heard of someone. I'm trying to figure out who was that someone by the name of Girlie Rosita Holder, also named or known as Mrs. Franks. I'm trying to remember that lady from the Bird Rock area. Notwithstanding, I want to extend condolences to the family of this lady who's gone to the great beyond, and all those who have lost loved ones. My Straight Talk family, I also, in the structuring of the program, have continued the situation report in that we keep you updated as to the COVID-19 situation in our beloved country. And as of today, Thursday, there are some 14 confirmed cases on St. Kitts and Nevis. The total number of deaths, unfortunately, are now 37, to wit 31 on St. Kitts and 6 on Nevis. And we extend our condolences to those who have lost loved ones as well. On the good side of things, yes, the vaccination rate as per the targeted population is almost 87%, and that's good. That's good, my Straight Talk family. And thus, those are for first doses. For the second doses, it's up at 77% or just thereabout. Another part of this structured program as well, the restructured program, I should say, it deals with the observations in review, and that what we are doing, what we are doing in this part of the program, we do some reflection. We do some reflection and perhaps, just perhaps, in our minds, reflect and we ask a few questions, such as what was accomplished from those reflections, how have it helped others, how has it helped us, what changed, what has changed since, and what can be expected, and what new have we learned as a people. And that's the ethos behind the objections or observations, rather, in review. For example, I've been getting a lot of calls, I've been getting a lot of emails, and I've been getting a lot of WhatsApp messages, about what I call the famous security hut being constructed at the cost of some $277,783. For those who are asking, Straight Talk can confirm that it's being constructed by commercial property investment owned by Halstead Isles. Straight Talk can also confirm that that company and its owner was paid 45% of the estimated costs, amounting to $102,277.35 as a mobilization fee. This means if my mathematics are accurate, then there is a balance owed to Mr. Isles, owner of commercial property investment, in the amount of $125,005.65 upon completion of this security hut. For the many of you, again, who are emailing or contacting me otherwise, the only information that has come to Straight Talk is that the construction works have been put to a cessation, or I should say put on hold. In layman's language, the work stopped for now. The other observation in review relates to the confrontation between a member of parliament and the police. Straight Talk has no updated information on that particular issue. Again, Straight Talk has no updated information on that particular issue, so there's nothing else Straight Talk can add. Tonight, however, with your indulgence, I intend to focus on agricultural development in St. Kitts and Nevis, with a particular focus on St. Kitts for obvious reasons. And on Monday night last, you can recall, we considered a very pertinent question as to whether we can or whether we should implement a parallel economic development of both tourism and agriculture. To put into context, when we refer to agricultural development, it means a bona fide farming operation, including greenhouses, for example, which are not connected to the government's water services or wastewater services, sod farms and farms for the breeding of animals like pigs and sheep and goats and cattle. And that includes, but is not limited to, barns or pens, as we say back home, or other ancillary buildings. Now, more definitions of agricultural development means land uses normally associated with the production of food, of livestock for sale. Such uses do not include the development of land for the processing or sale of food and the manufacturing of agriculturally related products. activities on lands used or proposed to be used for farm operation as defined by a specific legislation. For example, agriculture has always been an important industry in St. Kitts and Nevis. In Canada, for example, I should say, there's a Farm Practices Protection Act, which gives or protects the right of people to farm. And it balances community interests by both protecting farmers from disturbances, complaints, noise, etc., and by giving neighbors as well of a specific farm the right to formal conflict resolution, I should say, right through this particular piece of legislation. Now, the farm practice, as stipulated by most legislation, must not be in contravention of a health act, for example, Integrated Pest Management Act, or Environmental Management Act, or their regulations, and must not be in contravention as well of any land use regulation. And when we speak of a farm operation again, we think about growing, produce, raising or keeping animals or plants, or vegetables or fruits, etc. We use farm machinery, equipment, applying fertilizer, manure, if we still do that, and other biologically controlled agents, and conducting any other agricultural activity on or in or over agricultural land. In St. Kitts Nevis, believe it or not, we do have an Agricultural Development Act. This Agricultural Development Act, CAP 14.01, makes provisions for the more efficient and effective, or more efficient use, I should say, and economic development of agricultural lands. It promotes the development of income and employment opportunities and improves the standards of living for farmers and workers in agriculture. And finally, it also provides for the establishment and incorporation of an agricultural land development authority for such purposes, and to provide for related or incidental matters. And the Act speaks to agricultural land, meaning used for agriculture, used primarily for the purpose of processing or marketing the produce of agriculture, or any land designated by the authority with the approval of the minister by order as an agricultural land, or any land which have regard to its situation, and it continues. Now, it speaks as well to the authority, as I said, the Agricultural Land Development Authority. And what authority am I talking about? I hear you ask. But you would not believe that the Agricultural Development Act I referred to just a while ago also speaks to an Agricultural Land Development Authority. And Section 4 of this Act makes stipulation about the establishment and constitution. The establishment and constitution, beg your pardon, of the authority, to be specific. Section 4, in reference to the establishment and incorporation of the Agricultural Land Development Authority, specifies under subsection 1 that, and I quote, there is hereby established a body to be called the Agricultural Land Development Authority, which shall be a body corporate, without share capital, but with perpetual succession and a common seal, and having as its principal object the development and utilization of an agricultural land so far as the same is appropriate and two are not inconsistent with the provisions of this act and approved by the government under any law in force in the state in relation to the land considered by government to be needed, and it speaks interestedly to sugarcane cultivation. How can we develop and or move agriculture forward, or agriculture forward, beg your pardon? And that is my core question tonight. Another, is it too late to implement the more efficient use or economic development of agricultural land? Is the other question that I ask my Straight Talk family. And my Straight Talk family, I also ask or refer to the development of income and employment opportunities in the agricultural areas and improving as well my Straight Talk family to the improving as well the employment, as I said, opportunities in agriculture and the areas associated with agriculture and improving standards of living in those areas, my Straight Talk family. Now, the Agricultural Land Act number 18 of 1973 came into force in the 20th or the 24th of January 1974. And interestingly enough, this was the time that the sugar industry began grappling with the issues of productivity, and out of a 1972 report came a recommendation that a central company should be set up to run an integrated industry by private investors and government. Now, the London interests or private owners of the sugar industry back then, to be exact, the Booker's Sugar Estates, BSC, out of the United Kingdom opted to sell its shares to the government. Sell its shares to the government, my Straight Dog family, as it was not interested in becoming a minority shareholder. And after a lengthy discussion, after this lengthy discussion, it was not interested and chose to sell its shares, as I said, to the government. And my Straight Dog family, I want to also add that after these lengthy discussions, I should have said that in December of 1976, the factory land, it was on the machinery, some of which needed replacing, and the railway was sold to the government for the price of £1 million. Would you believe it or not? £1 million. And the acquisition by government of the factory and the estates was intended to keep the sugar industry alive and facilitate continued employment. Now, since its early settlement, St. Kitts was developed as a plantation island. There were small plantations at first that produced tobacco, cotton, indigo, that's a particular plant. But during the 17th century, there was more investment in sugarcane to these crops. Eventually, sugar became the main industry, or the main and only crop on the island back then. Sugar estates were developed as self-contained industrial complexes, each with its own individual labor force and works, including Muscovado mills. Remember Muscovado sugar, or Muscovite sugar, I think it was called. However, in 1912, it was changed from the Muscovado mills on the estates to a modern central operation under the name the St. Kitts Sugar Factory. To be exact, the St. Kitts Bastille Sugar Factory, which became the largest employer on the island. And as of 1940 onwards, negotiations started between the factory and the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union. And these negotiations were an important factor in the management of the labor back then in the industry. The factory was also a training ground for skilled tradesmen on the island. And many still in our midst recall the apprenticeship scheme that was introduced, which young boys in particular were given hands-on experience in the workshops and an opportunity to develop skills in mechanics, in chemistry, in science, mechanical drawing, and other skills. But for some unknown reason, neither Caribbean academics nor trade unionists ever grasped the were inspired by the exceptional political construct here in St. Kitts and Nevis, when the Workers' League, which became the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union, transformed itself into the government of the day, with its executive led by its then president Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, who eventually led the executive and the cabinet. Interestingly, following the failure of the only industry existing in the Twin Island, the sugar industry, Premier Robert Bradshaw resorted to the sugar industry rescue operation, by which the government sought the technical and financial assistance of the British government to restore the only substantive economic activity at the time, having removed it from private ownership. Now, where are we today in the context of agriculture? The Bradshaw government acquired the sugar lands in 1975. The Simmons government paid for those lands in the 1980s, and the Douglas government distributed those lands from the mid-90s, to be exact.
Let us look at what we're doing, for example, with our sugar lands. In this country, in the past, these lands were owned by just about 5 families. St. Kitts and Nevis was one big sugar estate. In fact, we have 68 square miles. We have 68 sugar estates there in this country. My government, proud of its record, in the past, in the 70s, 75 in particular, nationalized the entire sugar industry. And so the lands were taken in the name of the people. Of course, they were paid. The planters who owned it, they were paid. Mr. Bradshaw, our first national hero, the Right Excellent Sir Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, he did that act. It is now my time to distribute those lands.
And the agricultural development has had to compete with housing, tourism, and that has taken hundreds of acres of land, scarce land, for affordable homes for our people. Hundreds of acres of land for hotel development. You can think of the Ramada, the Kitchen Hill, and so on. But the Harris government, faced with the fallout from COVID, has been forced to provide leadership in the rescue of agriculture. And what good leadership he has provided thus far. We have learned lessons from this pandemic, and one is about self-sufficiency, food security, I may add.
During the period January to May 2021, the dollar value of crop and livestock production rose by 44% from $3.6 million in 2020 to $5.2 million in 2021. Significant movement. Crop output increased by 27%. Livestock output increased by 90% over the period. The Department of Agriculture has attributed this success to the stimulus package. Overall, fish landings increased by 51% for the period, January to May 2021, compared to the same period in 2020. We are therefore moving in the right direction to food security. We are not yet there, but we are moving in the right direction when we see this significant movement in the values.
Yes, we are moving in the right direction. I do agree, my Stray Dog family. Because COVID has taught us many lessons.
My government continues to provide ongoing support to the agricultural sector. And I want to identify some of that support because in the context of COVID-19, issues of food security loom large. How we are going to eat, how are we going to live? What if the boat doesn't come from Dominica? What happens? What if there's a disruption in the supply chain with respect to chicken, pork, beef, or any of the items for food which we import in such large quantities? The government, therefore, injected $15 million to boost production and to ensure agricultural food security. Over this period, the Ministry of Agriculture has allocated additional lands for farming. We have provided a temporary waiver of water payments for farmers. The water is critical to agriculture. We have the investment in agriculture, I'm pleased to report, has returned dividends.
And yes, it has returned dividends. And what COVID has taught us as well, we need more food ambassadors. And we recognize some food ambassadors in our midst.
Most importantly, the work of our farmers come to mind. Names like Mr. Politics involving livestock, Debbie Gilbert Davis at Phillips, one of the most vibrant female farmers, Mrs. Pemberton in Old Road, George Jeffrey in Tabernacle, Shahid Williams in St. Paul's, the Henderson brothers in Sadlers, and Marsh, of course, my good Rastaman friend in Molyneux, among hundreds of others who are making a contribution. I want equally to mention a good brother, Mawson, Eastern Mawson, in the Buckleys area.
And my Stray Dog family, we do have some agencies that are helping to keep our agriculture afloat and alive as well. Agencies like CARDI, the FAO, AICA.
I want at this point to commend Permanent Secretary Ron Collins, for he has been working a plan, and the plan has brought results. I commend him, and through him, all those who are involved in the agricultural sector, including our partners like CARDI, AICA, and FAO, for their contribution.
And my Stray Dog family, of course, the Rastaman won't be interested. Why can't we produce our own chicken? Why can't we?
We will know when we are there, when fewer boats are coming. We will know when we are there, when the chicken we are eating in our hotels, in our restaurant, is produced here and is of the highest quality. Yes, we will know. For now, we could take comfort in the fact that based on those statistics, we are moving in the right direction.
So, my folks, Why can't we produce? And the question I ask, do we need an agricultural industry rescue operation? Because something has to be done. We have learned lots of lessons from this COVID. And one lesson we ought to have learned is that we need food security. We need more food ambassadors, more farmers, greater investment in agriculture. That is my story for tonight, and I am not going to change it. I do apologize for the mix-up in our social media feed. For those of you who are not, for whatever reason, being connected on Facebook, try YouTube. Just look for Straight Talk with Ian Patch Liburd. Don't let those succeed. Don't let them succeed, because we are not going to fail. Straight Talk will be here forever. My Straight Talk family, I've put some questions before you. I started talking about, like I said, the economic development of tourism and agriculture. Let's look at agriculture tonight. Can we? Should we? What do you think about investing? Can we develop and move agriculture forward? That's one of the core questions. How can we? Another, is it too late to implement more efficient use of our, or rather more efficient use of or economic development of our agricultural lands? We don't have a lot. How can we go forward in that context? I'm asking tonight. The numbers are 465-2555 and or 718-577-2916. We still have our email address, which is zizstraighttalk@gmail.com. I always like to implore you, as well, my Straight Talk family, that I anticipate that you will respect others. And of course, to achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us try to be fair to all concerned, and let us try to build goodwill and better friendships. My Straight Talk family, in the process, let us try to ensure that in the things we say and or do, we will strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. If you're hearing me or you see me on my Facebook page, then share the link. Share the link, my family. As we go to the lines, I will entertain your calls and your emails. Caller, good night, you're live.
Hello, sir. Good night, Honorable Patches Liburd.
Good night, Mr. Welch,
Wilfred
Professor Welch. How are you?
Yes. Yes, I'm thankful that I'm able to get onto the program because I've been trying many times before on previous programs, but I was not successful. So I want to give my portion here on a very important topic, agriculture, the pivot for a successful economy for the future. Now, here are a few important plans that must be in place and implemented for the success in agriculture to be achieved. 1, managerial oversight. Very important. 2, land preparation by the provision of agricultural machinery to do the work. 3. The proper maintenance of roads. 4. The proper cleaning of borders. 5. The proper protection of crops. 6. The timely harvesting of crops. 7. The approving and apportioning of land to farmers who are willing to work, not just want land, but they must be willing to work, since we have changed the situation from what it was before. The raising of animals, that is 8, the raising of animals for food. 9, the setting up of poultry farms, not in any place, setting up of poultry farms in places away from residential areas, because the smell of the fowls and so on is not good in the community. 10, setting up fruit trees, orchards in lands around the country where they can be protected from wild animals and from thieves. 11, reaping that must be done at the right time, so that the quality of vegetables and fruits would be the best at all times. And 12, all farming must be protected from intruders, be they persons who would indulge in stealing, or from wild or stray animals. Therefore, having given you 12 good, solid reasons for successful agriculture, in closing, I must add that for the agricultural industry to be the success that is required, all of the appropriate measures that I have mentioned must be implemented. Interestingly, there has been a lot of talk about backyard gardening. Why? Because housing is a political plank going forward, and that the sugar lands have been very much diminished. But we need to go outside of that arena, because there are lots of problems with that. I would not continue much longer, because I know other people want to come on and speak. I could come back in later.
I can ask you a question?
Yes, let me hear you.
Just in the event you don't get back in later, what is your view in terms of the, can I call it conflict or competition in terms of land use, land for agriculture versus land for housing and land for hotel development? Now, we don't have a lot of land.
Well, the thing
What's
is,
your views on that?
the thing is that most of the problems regarding those same issues have to be solved by the politicians, because they use that sort of situation for them to gain prominence. And there are times when their suggestions only work in certain ways, but not in others. I mean, I can tell you quite a number of stories where I got involved with politicians in this agricultural thing. I remember, I was working as the manager of Nevis Estate, and the Minister of Agriculture, or the Minister of Tourism then, came and said to me, Mr. Wells, we would like to get some stuff for the tourist boats. Can you do something about it? I said, of course. So I set about and got myself busy in preparing a 10-acre field, which is lots of things, different varieties of fruits and food. And then when I told them that I was ready, they sent a few baskets. Now, the time the cane cart was filled with stuff, and the few baskets could only take just a small portion. So I had to take the rest down to the public market and try and encourage the persons there to take them from me. And then those persons who did not get start cursing and say, Mr. Welch, you come and you're giving away your stuff so that we can't get our stuff sold. And that sort of thing. So, I mean, I'm only just giving you a little insight.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Welch.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. As bona fide farmer and farm manager, I should say. Let's go back to the lines. Call your line.
Good evening, Mr. Patrick Liburd. I want
Good evening, the People's King.
Yes. Let me explain something to you. As you open the bowling tonight concerning the hut at Port Zante and different things like that, what I would like to know on that is who authorized the hut to build. I would like to know if the company is a private company, is a organization company like you know what they call it now. You know them company what got shares what it is. I would like to know about that. And I would like to know if the man who delegated from Port Zante, if he alone owned the company, and if he was on Port Zante board, and who authorized him, because he couldn't do it by himself. Port Zante have a manager down there, and Port Zante also have a board. So somebody got to authorize it. The leg of the young man, because he looked like a king because he was on the board and he was the contractor. But he could not authorize that money by himself. And what you need to tell people to what government paid out to give to start any contract and so on. People want to hear about them things. I don't want to hear about no sugar cane. Cain killed brother Abel, and now Abel gone, and Cain is on death row. So I don't want to hear about no sugar cane. I want to hear about what happening in this modern days right now, what is public and people's knowledge. People want to know how government money is spending. That is what people is interested right now. Sugar cane done gone. We want to know how government money is touching, and who got the hand in the cookie jar, and who pulling out what they're not supposed to do, and who gonna be responsible. Don't wait till election day for them to be the responsible. We have room at the jail over there. You say you got to put poor people, you got to put all kind of innocent people, you got to put people who can eat something. So what about the rich and them? No room in there for them? You got plenty room in there. So this is what I want to hear about. So I'd be glad if you could answer me on some of that. I'll be surely appreciate it. Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. You have a good night. Okay.
Thank you very much, the People's King. And that's one of the dangers of introducing what they call the observations in review. I'm only doing this not for a full-fledged discussion, but just to answer questions that have been asked. Many people call me and ask me the same questions you have asked. So it's not that I want to dismiss them or even dismiss you, but in fact, we will determine how or what we discuss on the program. And tonight, we're not really discussing sugarcane. So the Cain or Abel or Cain and his brother Abel, that does not really arise. We're in fact discussing agriculture, which is very important to us. And perhaps I can remind you, because the government itself spent, I think, $50 million on developing agriculture. And we need to be self-sufficient in our food. But just to answer your question, the information that has come to straight up is that the construction works have been put to a halt. We don't know who is the owner, who are the shareholders of commercial property investment. We know one owner or CEO or shareholder is one named Halstead Isles. That is a fact that we can't dispute. But in terms of discussing that, we are really looking at agriculture, COVID, and food security. But when we get more information on that particular topic in terms of the hut, we will discuss it. We'll have no problem whatsoever in discussing it fully. Right now, we're looking at the money's being spent, I think $50 million.
My government continues to provide and growing support to the agricultural sector. And I want to identify some of that support because in the context of COVID-19, issues of food security loom large. How we are going to eat, how are we going to live? What if the boat doesn't come from Dominica?
And those are pertinent questions. How are we going to eat? How are we going to live? What if the boat don't come from Dominica? We have the supply chain issue. What if the boats don't come from Florida? These are important issues. I take your point, Rockefeller, but agriculture is important because it deals with our survival. I want to thank that caller for holding. It's 7 before 9 o'clock. We're going to go back to the lines and entertain our callers and say, thank you for holding, caller. You're live.
Greetings
Yes, caller?
in the name of our great African ancestors, especially the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and Queen and Zing. Blessed evening, my beloved African brother. How are you, the family?
Peaceful, my brother. Blessed evening. And I hope you and your family are well.
Yes, man. The clan is good, man. And I am good also, beloved. Now, beloved, it's a great, great topic tonight, beloved. But let me ask you a question. It could be a rhetorical question. But does St. Kitts Nevis have a land use policy?
Yes, there's a land use management plan.
Well, it don't seem so because you build houses, agricultural land, you all kind of mix up nonsense, and it still continues today. That must be stopped, beloved brother. And this spread out housing, we got to go up, change whatsoever. I don't know what it is now. Is what 2 stories, 3 stories, but we have to go up. We can't just be spreading out. Soon ain't gonna be no land for agriculture if we continue in that. But that's for another time. Let me deal with agriculture, brother. When we was talking about, right? Over going on what, more than 20 years about agriculture, food security, self-sufficient in food production, and we got to satisfy the national desire, brother, first. Then we export. We export that thing, brother. We must get markets for our farmers. The farmers must be serious. And the supermarket, hotels, and all of them must buy from our farmers. That must be legislation and it must be enforced. And I say anything that is mass produced in St. Kitts Nevis, no importation license. And anybody caught bringing in any of those, beloved brother, $100 million, EC dollars, and 25 years in prison. But brother, we must build modern storage facilities, beloved brother, underground and up, beloved. Because you know hurricane and everything, and it must be firm structure. I know you can you could curtail nature to a certain thing, brother, to an extent, but you can't totally. You know, like how they build bunkers and all kind of things, that's the way we got to go when it comes to storage of food underneath and up, beloved brother. We must go down at least 2 or 3, but 3 stories down in the earth where it is possible. And then always because we got water and all kind of things, I know that. But we got to do the scientific research first, beloved. We got brilliant minds, young minds. Send them away. Let them go engineering and all kind of things, agricultural science, the whole thing. Let us plan for 100 years and make it in legislation that any administration, they can deviate from that. They could tweak it, but not because Pam started something or the clown from St. Paul gonna come in and change it. No, man. It just like how we got certain things entrenched in this nonsensical constitution. That's the way it got to be, brother. We must be serious. And these young brothers and sisters who in agriculture must be serious, and they must be given all the tools available, brother. Fencing, water, equipment, plowing, not you think somebody plow and then a month after they show up, no man. You need plowing ASAP, beloved brother. Modern tractors, air-conditioned tractors. Take the money. I know money now flow, but this is not just today. This should have been done before COVID. So I don't want to hear the argument, oh, it's COVID and this and that. But if we don't prepare, we would not be going through all of that. Because, brother, you can recall on 2 occasions when I tell my beloved brother, the Prime Minister, I think his name is Dr. Harris, when I said $75 million minimum, he kind of chuckled it up. But you see, no, brother, I'm not blaming him for everything, you know. But he got to take some blame also. You got to spread around the money. Because, beloved, and I going to beat this African drum. If our people are healthy, eat healthy food, mostly organic. I know you can't go 100% organic. I will like that, but it kind of, it's going to be a little impossible, beloved brother. So that will go a long way. Our people will be more healthy, take off all the strain off of the health system, and that money could go out for our people. Beloved brother, build new school, modernize school, air-conditioned school for our children, all kind of modern equipment, fix up the infrastructure, like the great work you have done, continue that, build the bridge to Nevis, build all kind of things, beloved brother. We must be serious about agriculture, and let me say, this new minister of agriculture, brother, he brother been doing so far so good. He been there a little and he been doing good. But you cannot build a house without materials, tools, manpower, and woman power. You need everything. Because you could get the most brilliant idea or ideas, beloved brother. You need the resources, everything to be who the thing come to fruition, beloved brother. We must do that, man, and stop procrastinate. We must love to feed ourselves all these garbage that's coming out United States. Let me say North America and Europe. It's garbage just killing our people, poisoning our people. Let us grow while we eat and eat what we grow, my beloved brother. How many times brother, culture, politics, brother, and numerous other sisters and brothers been saying this. Come on, because we don't got no Now, BA, Masters, or PhD, when those people who destroy St. Kitts and Nevis in most parts, come on, listen to ordinary people with brilliant ideas and common sense, and stop listening to those guys and girls who have no kind of love for their people and their country, and listen to ordinary people and people who you send away who love and are patriotic, beloved. Not these rip-offs that go away and they just come back and fill their pockets, beloved brother. Listen, with serious young sisters and brothers, brilliant minds, and along with ordinary people, brother, who know about agriculture and who serious about agriculture. Let's do that and put in as much. It's not too late, brother Harris. You guys supplementary budget. You could add at least an next 30 million this year, brother Harris. Let's go and get that done now. Brother Patrice, thanks again for hearing me. Continue the great works. Pan-Africanism and perish. One love, my beloved brother.
One love, my brother. What's a mouthful? We go straight back to the lines. Caller, you're live.
Patrice, good night.
Good night, Mr. Politics.
First, I
Food
want to
ambassador.
thank God for life. Thank God for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank God for Team Unity Government. I think that Team Unity Government has opened up my eyes towards the blind culture of politics in this country. Loyal to parties and all those things. And I believe that the Team Unity Government has changed me from all of that. And I would like to see a unity government continue to run the affairs of this country. Now, parties, let me move on to agriculture. Parties are going to always say, when the sugar industry closed, right? Remember it was under certain person's dead body. When the farmer leader for PAM, say when he go in there, he gonna give a plan, he gonna give back this, he gonna give back that, and give back my land and money. You know? That is, I was saying that when the sugar industry closed, I believe that was the opportunity at the time that the land could distribute to farmer sugar workers, whether they pay something monthly, weekly, or whatsoever, to continue to farm the land, continue to plant food, continue to plant sugar cane too, because some people have their own sugar lot, and they could continue to plant the sugar lot, because see the bubble man them selling bubble cane still. And I believe that was a mistake under the farmer leader to distribute the land to the farmers. But I believe that in a practice. 2010, when the farmer leader was in jeopardy, he making the election. Remember, he went down in the square. So he gonna give up land. $100. Just put on $100. Just put on $100. You're gonna get your land. You are the people that stand all the constituency number 3, West Farm, come up to store for the Buckley's. Get land. You are the young men, young women take land. Some of them, they make me use of the land because some of them was working on it. They can't turn the land. You know the land? You are touching? So the land has distributed land. So in that to say that now, all these land are there in the mountain, from mountain to sea. And these land are just there in Kasha, in the wilderness, and all kind of thing, and we got some raising animal and some people just farming a little piece here and there. If the land was there for further development and give a political just like that because of politics, that is another man land here to continue to develop. Look this unity government. What if they don't can the housing project? Because the land here to get the housing project. And because you know some of these young men who go in and women who do go in, they sell the land to other people. Sell the land, sell the land. So and I think that sell some of them, sell over some of them because some of them would pay. And this is trifling and threatening. Thank God to Dr. Timothy Harris. Thank God to him, he was very under the farm administration. And people say he was over and all kind of thing. I believe that Dr. Harris was the foreign minister for even 10 years, even 10 years with Douglas and with Douglas administration. I believe that William Minnesota and farmers are better off in this country. Me, as a livestock man, is better off in this country. And that price. Because the man got the potential, the man got the vision for things. I see it. Because the amount of people doing farming and getting on different places and the administration and the amount of land in around. The man trying the best. Trying in the best patches to help farmers. Look at the pandemic. Look at the one of the pandemic. Free seedlings, free this, free that, free other seed, come from different countries. I believe that Dr. Harris has done well with this unity government, and only that Dr. said. He has done well with this unity government. I don't care about it. He has done well. And a unity banner, with he as the leader, he has done well. I ain't going no further. But he's going to wonderful let the God this.
Have a wonderful night as well. That's one of the food ambassadors of politics. As we go back to the lines, we're discussing agriculture. Do you believe we need an agricultural industry rescue operation? That's one of the questions I ask. Calling you live.
Mr. Ian Patches Liburd, greetings to you, brother.
Greetings, my brother. How are you?
I'm very good, very, very good. A very spicy topic tonight. Nothing new. The agriculture is a topic we've been discussing for years now. And the question does be asking if some of us really want the status quo to change, or we just want it to look like an elitist society from just university graduates academically to get the money from out the country. And when they look at agriculture, probably they look at it as just ordinary people would be bettering themselves more efficiently. And maybe sometimes they seem as though it's a hindrance to the development of agriculture. Because when you listen to some of the callers tonight, especially the first caller, and he made 12 very serious input points. And he even gave an illustration concerning the former tourism minister. So you see, at times, is the will of authority not getting things done. Because agriculture, you got a human touch for people. You know, you got to feel it from yourself. You got to come from within. And you got the love for your country to say yourself, my country, we ain't on a bauxite, we ain't on an oil, but my people can produce. And providing you, as an authority, have that kind of instinct in you, got a pulse of the people, that your people can produce, we won't have no problem with agriculture. You know, it's the love, it's the determination, it's the courage, the insight, the vision. I mean, the question asks, land distribution. Did the farmer administration did a good job in the distribution of the land? Because remember, the farm administration get the best opportunity to develop the country. Because remember, as you know tonight, when Simon spent for the lands, remember the lands were still in sugarcane. And even when he lost the election, the lands were still in sugarcane. And he paid for the land. When the farm administration take over, they get the best advantage now to vision the country and to develop the country. Did they do a good job? When you look back and you look at the history, you ask the question, did they do a good job in paralleling agriculture with tourism and the distribution of the lands? These are serious questions we have to ask ourselves for the future development of our people. You know, agriculture should always be a main stem for our resources, financial resources in this country. And I always feel, Patches, we should think about even 4 crops, 3 crops, but we must include peanuts and have an outlet and have an international market for our people. Let the people know we have a market for our resources. We have an outlet. Become more official, because on the branch of these things happen. If we don't have an example set from our hero, nothing should be a problem going forward. Sometimes we make things a problem for us because sometimes the envy. You know, you don't want to see your people striving that way. You see the population of St. Kitts and Nevis. Let me talk about St. Kitts. It's ordinary people who's forgot the power. And when you have persons in authority, they got to feel the love of the people. They can't just think, man, I come from university and I just think in my elitist way. So let me keep the status quo. I think it's just as it is. But the ordinary people want to change. So they know if the bank and agriculture, it will more change. And a lot of them don't want to stem it in that way. It's the low Patches. And when you talk about God, you must feel about agriculture. We can do it, but it's the willpower, it's the courage, it's the determination to make it happen, the love for your people. Mr. Patches, you continue putting the topics to the floor, to hear the people's views, and to educate the people. And you continue to stay strong and healthy. Good night.
Thank you, my brother. You stay strong and healthy as well. And we must thank you also for the education you bring to the people, to the program. Patrick, I want you to answer this question now on this talk show. Write this email. If we use an acre of land and cultivate it, and I am given the same acre of land, and I build some apartments or guest rooms or hotel rooms for the month, which of us will make more money for that month? Interesting conversation. It's just a question, but it's about security. It's about sustainability, my dear brother. That's how I'll answer that question. Thanks for holding, caller. At 9:15, I go back to the lines. You're live. Yes, my brother.
Good night.
Good night, the Bible man.
Now you're talking about agriculture. Well,
yes.
I old enough to tell you about it. Listen here. When Mr. Bradshaw was alive, Bellevue and Estridge is what I live. He got a place named Manawa. That was a whole field. And not. Then Manawa, a whole field of potato.
Next field, a whole field I am. And so that was agriculture. But now, in 1980, there was some, but in 1995, agriculture went down to the ground. But thank God for Mr. Harris tried to bring it back up. Mr. Patel, listen here. I get some dashing last week. Nothing toys up. Sweet. When you boil them, it looks like you're eating Irish potato. And sweet potato, local sweet potato. And I'm getting some this week again. Come from a farmer. Local banana. Local carrots. Because I just tell them that me no want nothing from foreign. So me eating me local, and that's going to keep me up by the grace of God. You have to put God in it, you know. You can't take out God. Because God give them strength to go to the mountain. Like you call last week. Start to go on. I wonder if he didn't know that the Bible says you must preach in season and out of season. But listen here. He gonna one of these days he want the same Bible where he costs. And he want the same preacher man where costs. But I'm saying to you, Patches, agriculture is one of the best things in St. Kitts. Because I don't want, if you eat a carrot from St. Kitts, and you eat a carrot from the one from overseas, is watery. The one here, man, sweet like anything. Mr. Paget, people only talking about agriculture, but they're supposed to be serious with it. And so, when I got some dashing in my house, present in my sweet potato, and I've been there cook for the whole week, me no want no fine stuff. And so, Mr. Patrick, it is good to talk about agriculture, but you have to put your mind to it. And listen, all the farmers supposed to get together and really say what they're going to do. One plant yam, one plant potato, one plant dashing, one plant carrots. So when the time comes, there will no local book dude will go out saying to do what's up with food. So when my food come in, the next time going to come in. So there is a lot of food in St. Kitts. But listen here, if God lifts you up and give you strength to go to the mountain, you can't do nothing. And people must put God in it. In everything that you do, you have to put God in it. So tell the man, I say, be careful how we come around to ridicule God manservant. Patches could not have a friend. And you, Patches, you be strong. Have a good courage. You're doing a great work. And you can't come down now. The enemy is going to come after you, but you be strong. Have a pleasant night. It's a package.
Have a pleasant night, Mr. Bible man, my dear brother. I will ask the caller just to hold for a couple of seconds because our first caller laid out the parameters for a successful or sustainable agricultural development, Mr. Welch. And he spoke to managerial oversight, land preparation, provision of machinery and equipment, proper maintenance of access roads. You got to get to those farms up the hills and elsewhere. Cleaning of borders, protection of crops, timely harvesting, approving of land for farmers willing to work, he said. Raising of animals for food, poultry farms in places away from residential areas. Not only poultry farms, as well as animal farms away from residential areas because, of the stench it brings. Fruit trees, orchards, and he spoke about the animals. I think he meant the monkeys and the pilferers, those thieves who reap your crops when they don't plant them. And having your crop reaped in time to protect the quality. And all farmers must be protected. Very important, very pertinent points raised. And I thank you, caller, for holding. You are important as well. What is your view on agricultural development? I asked the question, do we need to have an agricultural industry rescue operation at this time? What do you think?
Yeah, Patrick, brilliant. Patrick, yes. I believe that Mr. Welch's proposal is very good. But I can tell you, right, the people in this country, the farmers, them especially, and people who are in business, they don't want to come together as one. And I don't know how we're going to get it so. Because everybody wants to be by themselves and everybody wants to come millionaire at the same time. You want to take a acre and come a millionaire out at the same time. We cannot work like that way. We got to work as one. What is the thing that me thinking when we had, right? If I had about two other person with me in this village and said, brother, you must be in the village, in Sinkich. And said, brother, let me tell you something. Let me come as one. We're going to pick up we're going to put in some acreage of land and we're going to raise some animals, farm some agricultural land together. And we're going to work together as one. You understand? Look at Dark and Kelly. Look at other business people who join together as one and successfully do it until they resign. You understand? We got to come together as one. If we don't come together as one, Patrick, I do not think the government and nothing going to do. The government just but I'm saying that government must invest money into this and invest money into that, right? If government cannot invest into things with the ANC, we got to see the farmers then, we got to see the people then, we got to bring the people in together, that they could come as one. We don't want million, we don't want 25 acres of land. I want my own land because I want to come in, I want somebody is going to do the same thing. You know, that even you get somebody to work with you. We got to come together as one. Look the Chinese, look the Chinese, the Indians, them. They're coming together as one. You think Cindy one own what she got? As she and others own it. The Indians, them, they come together as one and own what they got. They look family. And we got to build ourselves as family, as farmers. We got to build ourselves as family. Only so we will survive. Look at the judges. You think we got to get anything up in this president? But we don't have to go to Dominica to get a coconut and to get no country, brother. My mother was there and say get some dashing, and dashing was so sweet. But these are things when my father used to plant in the mountain. We as young man and woman used to go in the mountain and reap and come down and sell. You understand? Up to you today, I show a man some young people big dashing. A big dashing and a big yam. I said, no, thing to go here. They know the thing to go here too. You understand? So you want to show that the backwardness, the agriculture, backwardness of our people. That is, we got to come together as one. We got to come together as one. If we don't come together, we not get nothing done. We not get nothing done, and everything will just like Caribbean. We just talk for agriculture. And maybe somebody else come in the country and benefit and do it well. Look at the Zionism, successfully the Zionism do. They come in the farm, they sell the food, they sell the thing, they don't complain. Where are they going to teach them to go on the farm? All right, then, Patrick.
Thank you very much, my dear brother. Let us go straight back to the lines. Caller, you're live.
Yes, Mr. Patrick, good night.
Good night, my dear.
Yes, the farming thing is a puzzle, you see? Only like in Mr. Patrick days, it was going good, right? What happened lately in the 80s, the 90s, come down here. People like soda, where they don't show the chemical too heavy. You hear they want this amount of acre land, as someone was saying, and then when you look, they want to get this amount of cabbages. This amount of carrots, carrots is important, selling. And then you look, the more like, full of more chemical they got to. I don't know, long time, we used to do that thing, and they used to sweet as John James said. Because we putting in the dung, where the cattle dung was wrong. But down there to buy the abattoir, they could go and get manure and do it, sprinkle it in the ground. But now they want to plant it this week, and by next week they're ready to sell. So what happen now, it's going to come bitter and watery and everything. The quality of it going to drop. Right? Everybody want fast is fast that. Fast is fast. It ain't so. A crop must take nearly 2 months or two to improve coming up. Right? And then if you do that, the food going to be benefiting to you. Maybe a lot of young people dying after because the quality of the food poisonous. You're eating it, but the amount of chemical in it like a poison out your body. Right? So at the end of the day, you can't stand up because some people say, me want a breadfruit. Maybe breadfruit is a good thing because nobody actually really nothing fasting around it every day to get it grow. But the other things, I might one of these things is good, what we're saying, but is the too much of chemical they're putting in it? This they getting up the name, put it on, it grow fast. That's bad. We ain't no flowers. At the end of the day, they're going to burn out your inside. So me now we got really a chemical, we think problem, agriculture problem because what happened? The thing, everybody want fast. Everybody here, I see people who used to just sell a little thing at the side of the road. Now they got big ground all down inside loss. Maybe don't pass and ground all they go back. You see, because they see when they go now, when they sell it to the supermarket, they gain the big money and so a bag of this, a bag of, but the bag of this and bag of that sometimes it ain't worth it. Because I think if they used to let it thing, I don't know how they used to get it though, but some food used to big, like Itania and the Dashin and them for real. Right? And you
Okay.
you used to be go, you used to be go to your throw manual, you pick you when you sweep up a yard, you throw it down, you throw your dung there, you cattle dung and we dung, me no nobody. How we gonna make out, I just hope it could be a success, but we government can't put too much money in it. As someone just because you don't even know where the money you go. Sometimes they be foolish. So me only make 25,000 when you look it's 50. Nobody really gonna be honest and so. Okay.
Okay, thanks for your intervention. Here's an interesting comment here. Patches, it is cheaper for me to go to the shop and buy a pack of peppers than I have to wait for months to taking care of peppers with lots of water to get peppers. Leave holds cultivation for big countries like China, Russia, etc., who have millions of miles of land that has state of the art modern machines to do that. Job encourage people to how to make money by going into having a shop, a store, like the Chinese have done. Those farming to me are slave work, doing it for your home or personal use or needs. It's okay. Farming keep you down, keep you poor. How could you own a big house? Farming, that is my opinion, farming keep you looking dirty and old. Thank you. Well, that's really myopic view, but it's your view, but I'm sure many won't agree with that particular view. Caller, you are live. It's 9:31. Thank you for holding.
Thank you, Patrick. This is Culture.
My brother.
Yeah, how are you doing? Good?
I am peaceful, Mr. Culture.
Okay, I am peaceful too. And let me say good night to two warrior ladies, Janet in Station and Jacqueline from Newton, St. Croix. Are you good night? Are you two warriors? Patrick, Straight Talk is a program to educate. And when we learn, we can advance and things would be better. This is not a program for people to come on and backfire when somebody advised me that I should do better than what I have done. Now, I have been talking about agriculture like Nabu reminded you. For years, since 2005, when Abel killed back Cain, but nobody studying me like Nabu say, because I didn't go to university or a college, but I use my common sense all the way. And common sense put me to college sense. Now you see what happened now? What we're saying here now is if I didn't know, if I had listened to me, Politic Nabu and Derek and other people when we were talking about the use of the land. Yes, people need land to build houses because more and more children coming big adults and they leaving their parents and leaving school and they need a house. But what happened? You can't build a house and no food. And Mr. Welch laid down the 12 commandments of agriculture and he was so right. And I thank him for that. But I don't bang horse when the flag drop. You come to the park when I used to race my bike and when you see me in the back, I ain't gonna bang the horse and stay behind you. Or when I'm ready to make my move, I go up front. So when the flag drop, are you right there upon the flag? So therefore, I am saying all the time, utilize the land for agriculture, please. Up to last week, I talked about it, but nobody studying me. Anyway, enough of that. This thing here, what you got, this hut, what the building down Port Sante, what that be? A 33-story building like the Twin Towers in New York, that they could see ships and they coming in on the horizon. You gonna tell me a little square matchbox like that, they gonna cost them kind of money while you lay out there tonight? No, bubble in that. Bubble is in that. And to get that deal, go down, like how it's going. I have been talking about square pegs in round hole. This administration meet a lot of square pegs in round hole, and a lot of them still in the round hole. Square peg cannot stop fluid and air from escaping, because the four flat side of that peg, they're gonna come to there. But nobody listening me. You got a lot of square peg up the hospital up there, taking advantage of the workers them. That's one. And you have a lot of square peg overseeing the land being sold properly and fairly. But a lot of them using the condoning wrong to benefit their friends. And people who are on the right track with the money and the receipt cannot get the land. Them who in charge of the land, when you look, they say, no, this is to go to he or she. I'm going to send them all the way down so. And they bring in a friend and give them the land. All these things that were happening in patches. And the the ministers of the department, they had to look into it. Too many wrong things are going on in there. And they are listening to us. But anyway, patches, thank you for your time. I gone because the time done gone. And I wish some people could be more considerate when they call in that other people want to get in. And done with it quick. Patches, have a good night. This is me one and only time for the night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Culture. we go straight back to the lines and take the guidance from that last culture.
Well,
Call your line.
yeah, Honorable Patrick Liburd. Well, I want to
So,
talk agriculture now, right? Now, you see, we talking agriculture, you know, but me ain't hear nobody talking about Simaco and the other place there, Simaco and the one up down by the electric light department. What was built by government for agriculture, you know, and they gone sold, and nobody know where the money is up to now. How you expect agriculture could survive when these places were built that poor people could have go and sell the dashing and the tanya and the potato, the lettuce, the tomatoes and so on, and these people ship them to other islands. Where the building them gone? One is a gym now, in Pepper. They put down $100 and something thousand on it, and they get it with everything what was in there, all the cold storage equipment, the food, and all of that, and plus 3 truck in the yard, plus some coolers was in the yard. Where those money gone? Those is what we need to talk about when we talking agriculture. You know, all of them guys who used to go up there and take up the things out to Simaco and the other one up there. Right? 2 of them the government had. And nothing could have done about it because they were big members of government. They back up the car and try for all the women in different places and all kind of thing. And so in check to themselves. How long we going to continue that in this federation here? It going to go on forever? It cannot. You got to stop at some point. I don't know if you remember the time the riot down there by Ross University, you know, over piece of land down there, where one wanted to plant potato and the other one wanted to sell the land. And then the other one said, no, we're going to go clean on this land. And more men down there get locked up and all kind of thing. Children chuck from public works and head on to the station. You know, let me talk about those kind of things. You know, we're in Mr. Welch in them days. Mr. Welch was there in them days. You know, he was there. These are the things what Mr. Welch should be talking about. Talking about this protection, that protection, and all kind of thing. Nonsense. That's all I call it. Good night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rockefeller. But as someone put it, Mr. Welch provided the 12 commandments of agriculture. That's very good. This caller, my favorite caller, do we want the status quo to change, or do we want to retain that elitist society, right? And that's how I paraphrase it. But let's go back to the lines nonetheless. Caller, thank you for holding your line.
Good evening, everybody out there in Radioland, and good evening, servant ambassador Ian Patrick Liburd. How are you feeling tonight?
Your humble servant is peaceful, my brother. What about you?
I myself am very thoughtful, and as usual, whenever I touch bases with you, I am stimulated to think on a higher level. And that's what the value of communication should be all about. You've made Straight Talk a glorious monument to the freedom of expression. Thanks much for this unique and enduring accomplishment. Now, listening to you tonight about this COVID-initiated food security awareness program, I asked myself a question because I always believe in the collective wisdom of the commune. Who feels it knows it. Nobody can tell you better than the people. Don't ever get too far away from them. And I ask myself, how often do we consult the farmers themselves? Not many of them are speaking. Thank you, Mr. Politics. What are their particular needs? And when expressed, to what degree have they been addressed? This land use issue is weighing heavy on my mind. Time is so fleeting. And politicians are avariciously procuring votes. A lot of it at the expense of land. Where will it end? The land, however, is finite. You know we are comparatively tiny, Mr. Ambassador, by any measure. Most of the countries in the Caribbean or West Indies will swallow us up several times over. So land use must be optimally utilized. That's just logic. The land is finite, I repeat, but guess what? The resources of the government are finite also. The needs of our beloved Federation, therefore, will always be greater than the available resources in my lifetime and yours. And you know, I think that you, Mr. Ambassador, can certainly attest to this as a former minister of government responsible for the allocation to the many of the limited resources that we have. However, after thinking about it somewhat, I have to say that some of our wounds that hamper us going forward are self-inflicted. As dismal as it appears, the world is awash with money if you know where to find it. Years ago, while working as a reporter for The Observer, I interviewed one Mr. Alistair Edwards, who later became a PS, and listened in dismay as he lamented the fact that he was thoroughly incapable of penetrating the thick skulls of the farmers to get them to understand that they would feel infinitely better by forming a co-op. Millions of dollars were waiting to be accessed. But guess what? Individual farmers were excluded. It was the province of co-op. You had to form a co-op. That was one of the prerequisites. Yet, alas, after hearing this repeatedly, just like in the political realm, they retreated into their polarized and insulated domains, struggling and dying for want of solidarity. Now I have to ask you a question. How does one change a mindset? Put this down in one of the questions to ask. You think of the term for a sec and think concrete. While wet, you can carve your name in it easily. Once set, however, it becomes hard as flint and almost impervious to indentation. No wonder God in Numbers 32:11, with all of his divine sovereignty and prerogative, ordained that nobody over 20 who he brought out of Egypt. Think about this for a minute. The Bible was written for our instruction. He said nobody over 20 would enter into the promised land. Except Joshua and Caleb, who were faithful, God always reserves unto himself a remnant. Why? Because of their fruitless and implacable rigidity in their thinking, their mindset. How and what, I ask, are we thinking tonight? In closing, I once heard of two competitors in the same business running neck to neck, making $1 million apiece every single year. One man, closer to God than the other, presumably, prayed hard. He said, Lord, let me make $2 million, please, and I'll serve you more fervently. God told him, I think I would grant you that, but on one condition. He said, sure, Lord, anything. And the Lord said, I'll do it. I'll let you make $2 million if I let your competitor make $3 to $4 million. In which case, the man quickly said, let it stay exactly as it is. His aim was not to advance himself, but to advance himself at the expense of others. Now we can better understand the controversial enigma of that Port Zante hut. Can't we? A pause on construction, there will, I tell you, be an awful day of reckoning, politically speaking. And guess what? You know as much as I do. From what I asked you last week, that question, how could you allow this amount of money to escape from your portfolio without your knowledge or consent? Well, if you don't know, and I'm not talking to you because you do, I'm speaking to the general populace out there, it was a chronic dereliction of duty. There will, I say, be political consequences. Keep the line open for the others. I'm sorry for staying this long and being so emotional, but chalk it up to love of country. People, I love you. Servant Ambassador, I love you. Let us love our country and do whatever we can for its precious preservation. Good evening, folks.
Good evening, my brother. I love you more. I love you more. It's always laced with eloquence, my dear brother Enver. Sometimes I know we get upset. He gets some time that guided by the rules of brevity, but sometimes we listen up and take the content of his interventions, you know. He spoke about the co-op, farmers co-ops and so on the COVID initiative, COVID introduced food security awareness. It has brought awareness for us because of COVID, we had to think about our self-sufficiency in growing our own food, and it's very important. As Mr. Welch, our first caller, you can't forget the 12 commandments of agriculture, as someone called it. And my Straight Dog family, again, there's some changes in the social media feed, and I want you, as of tonight, to inform everybody you know about the access to the Ian Patches Liburd Facebook page. You go to that page, then you get to Straight Talk with Ian Patches Liburd. Just enter Straight Talk with Ian Patches Liburd on Facebook and on YouTube. Tell the world about it. Share the feed so that we can get back to where we were, because there have been changes But in life, we have to understand that change is unavoidable. So we're not going to get mad about the changes that are being made elsewhere. We're going to adapt, we're going to adjust, and make sure that Straight Talk continues the educational process we've started so many years ago. And we promote freedom of expression as long as you talk the truth. Caller, thank you for holding you alive. Yes, caller?
Mr. Patrick,
So,
can I ask you a question?
you always do.
All right. I'm going to ask you, I've been coming on your show, and I have been repeating scriptures, and I've been talking about the Word of God. And Mr. Patrick, it seems like people get offended by preaching the Word of God. And up to this present moment, Mr. Patrick, you ain't telling me it's not allowed. But a lot of people get offended. Now, Mr. Patrick, I am going to tell you something. I do not, the Bible man read the Word of God. And in everything that you do, you have to let the world know that Jesus Christ is the King. Because people that meet me and people that tell me, why when I hear you on the ear, I ain't feel good. You just make me feel nice by spreading the gospel. No, I don't take up your whole show, Mr. Patrick, and I don't say things that out of order. That is not me. But it seems like some people get offended. And I don't like to offend people, eh? But it's the Word of God offend people. Now you're talking about security, food security. I explained tonight about what I saw when in Mr. Brother time, right? And I tell you what's happening now. Nobody called me on the telephone and tell me nothing that I could come on in the ear and spread it. No, I don't want that. I believe that what the Bible says, and it got some people like, when I done, it got some people attacking me. I don't want to go down the road. I don't want.
Bible man.
I don't want to go down the road. So,
the Bible man?
So the best thing for me, yeah, if you ain't tell me nothing about Bible man don't.
Can I ask you? Can I say something to you?
Yeah, talk to me, Mr. Patrick.
The Bible man, John James. Yes, please.
Go ahead, talk.
I want to tell you, right, that every time you call the program, I look forward to your biblical instruction, the instructions that are rooted in the Bible. I look forward for that. And when you don't provide that for me, then I feel empty. So continue each time to quote the Bible verses.
Yeah.
I look forward to them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
So don't let people derail you.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Have yourself a good night.
When
Remember.
I call your program, just tell you what in the Bible come from.
True. Yes.
Yeah, all right. I will do that, Mr. Patrick. I will do that. But this is
okay.
But I don't really want people get offended and they will get a lot of losses, serious. Because when they start to really come around and start to say things, well, I sorry for them. But Mr. Patrick, I don't want to go down the road, so me cool. As a man of God, I don't want to go down the road. Yeah. Anytime I call your program, I'm going to tell you which party the Bible, which party come from, and tell you which God. Mr. Patrick, there are 365 days in the year, and there are one passage of scripture for a day.
Okay, got you.
So, all right, all the best.
All the best to you. The Bible man, don't get upset. They always stone sweet fruit. You're not going to stone a mango in a tree if it's sour or golden apple. When the mango is sweet, the pelt stones at the mango. So don't even worry about that. Caller, you're live. Thank you for holding.
Man, you making me laugh, man, about mango. I want to tell Major Jones good night. But I got 6 children, yeah? And thank God for them. And none of them mother named Miss Palmer, now Miss Fingers. Good night.
Oh, let's keep it to agriculture and our self-sufficiency. What do you think? Call your life. You know, if you just joined us, we looked at agriculture for self-sufficiency. We looked at our food security. The Harris government, we looked, as a matter of fact, at the Bradshaw administration. And this message reads from my good brother, Emmanuel Govaya. It says, 40 years, the government undertook the need of boosting our agricultural sector to lessen the importation, but we are still in that dilemma. It's just talk and no action about agriculture, where King Entertainer in the 1970s sang about the need for agriculture. What has been done? People call it and tell us where we can find suitable arable land for the cultivation of agricultural produce. The caller made an important point. Where was the precedence dealing with the balance of land? And you, Mr. Glasswood Reeds, made an important point. Where was the balance given precedence to infrastructural development of agriculture? And I think he's referring to the competition we find between the land for hotel development, land for residential development, which exposed what was called the land use management plan. And as we wind down tonight's programming, I'll perhaps take 2 more calls if time permits. I'll take 2 more calls, but I'll guide you by the rules of brevity. But we looked at, again, my Straight Dog family, we go back in the context of where we are in terms of agriculture today. We reflected on the Bradshaw government and its acquisition of lands in 1975. I'll take 2 more calls and make this my penultimate call tonight. Caller, I'm going to guide you by the rules of brevity.
Yes, I'm going to talk off the radio.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Patrick Liburd, thank you for accepting my call. Yes.
My pleasure.
Honorable Patrick Liburd, I would like to add to the contribution I made at the beginning, having heard the contributions made by subsequent callers. We all know that when the colonizers settled on St. Kitts, they saw that the land was very fertile. And so agriculture was a consideration to be the main plank on which to build an economy. They started with cotton and food crops. and then introduced sugarcane as the main crop because sugar dominated the export market. However, food crops of fruits and vegetables had been kept in the mix and expanded in order to supply food to the people of the country and workers in general on the island were kept healthy from the food they eat, from fruits and vegetables. We are now in a new dispensation when we need to make food crop the most needed part of our enterprises. But how can we do it? I said before that there is what is called managerial oversight. It must be properly managed. And if it is not properly managed, then it won't be able to work. In my years on the sugar estate, I used to plant food crop. And we did it in such quantities that we could have exported to places as far as Guyana, Trinidad, and those places. We did onions, peanuts, and potatoes, and we were pleased with what we were doing. So that it isn't to say that we have not got the expertise and we do not have the kind of soil that will grow these crops successfully. But these are situations where we need to have agriculture controlled. There are so many things that would intervene and interrupt and make agriculture a spoil. We used to control the monkeys. We used to control the thieves. We used to bring machinery that can make work easy to do, so as to control the weeds that grow around our crops very prolifically. So, if we don't have these measures, we cannot make success of agriculture. And that is the same thing that I have said before, and that is what I think we must have. Now, I remember there was a time when the government set up SIMACO, and it was for, they said, not the estates, but for the persons, local persons, who were given lots of land on the government estates, like Sadlers and Harrises, to deal with SIMACO. But what do you think happened? The overseers on the different sugar estates, having got their transport, the Land Rovers, were taking produce that they grew to SIMACO in front of those persons who the government had on Sadlers and Harrises. And because they didn't have any vehicles at all to take their stuff. So they used to be walking with trays up and down in the nearby vicinity to sell whatever produce they get. And when they got tied up, they decided, well, listen, we're not going to food crop anymore. We're going to change those lands and put them into sugarcane. These are the complications that they faced. And for some, when they took their stuff to SIMACO, and the estate overseers had already stocked up the place with food, they went on the parking lot outside of SIMACO and they to sell their stuff. And that was not good enough. So the government put another SIMACO in Biasti in the town. And they could not come into town easily with their stuff. So the whole thing was a bit of a flurry. They could not manage everything. So what I'm saying is, without proper things in place, measures in place, agriculture will not move. You have to have...
Okay.
Yes, let me hear you. I've closed off.
No, go ahead. Just wrap, please. I'm out of time.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
My pleasure.
Okay,
my pleasure,
my friend.
Mr. Welch. I did say I'll take 2 more calls, but perhaps I'll take this one. I'm going to be strict with 30 seconds. I think we're out of time. I think we are out of time, and I think that's a good way to end with the proposition or the proposal, as someone put it, of the 12 commandments of agriculture. And Mr. Welch spoke to the time when we exported to Guyana. We also exported to Trinidad our peanuts, which came back here to St. Kitts in cashew nuts. And Simaco, I believe, was meant to be a storage facility and an outlet, of course, yes, for the farmers. Simaco was sold, but that's beyond us now. And, you know, the 12 commandments of agriculture, we need managerial oversight. We need to be able to have land preparation by providing machinery. We need to maintain the access roads to our farms, cleaning our borders, protection of crops, and timely harvesting as well. Approving of land for farmers willing to work, very interesting. Raising of animals for food, you know, places away from residential areas, food trees, food crops, and don't forget the animals, the monkeys. We need to address that and address as well our pilfered, the thieves, they call them. What about producing our own chicken? What about
we will
that?
know when we are there, when fewer boats are coming. We will know when we are there, when the chicken we are eating in our hotels, in our restaurant, is produced here and is of the highest quality. Yes, we will know. For now, we could take comfort in the fact that based on those statistics, we are moving in the right direction.
Yes, we believe we are moving in the right direction, having come from the acquisition of the sugar lands in 1975 by the Bradshaw government, the payment for those sugar lands in the 80s by the Simmons government, and the distribution of those lands in the mid-90s by the Douglas government. Agricultural development has had to compete with housing and tourism development since that, because hundreds of acres of land, scarce land, have been used for affordable development, affordable housing, I should say, for our people. Nothing's wrong with that, mark you. Hundreds of acres of lands have been used for hotel development. Think of the Ramada, think of the Kittitian Hill, and the list will go on and on. The Harris government, faced with the fallout from COVID, has been forced to provide leadership in the rescue of our agriculture, to provide food security.
During the period January to May 2021, the dollar value of crop and livestock production rose by 44%, from $3.6 million in 2020.
So we are on the right road, and COVID has forced us to look at food security.
What happens? What if there's a disruption in the supply chain with respect to chicken, pork, beef, or any of the items for food which we import in such large quantities? The government, therefore, injected $15 million to boost production and to ensure agricultural food security.
Yes, that's the way we're going to end it, because we know it is time. We need agriculture. The general view that has come forward tonight is that we need to rescue agriculture. How? like politics said, build alliances amongst our farmers. Farmers co-ops, that's farmers cooperatives, that's as well to do. But as we wind down, my time is done, I got to run. Remember, tomorrow morning, you can get your breakfast down at Jasmine's there on the waterfront. Menu includes plantain porridge. Wow. Baked saltfish, fried plantain, omelette, sandwiches, saltfish cake, old-fashioned style at Blue and Jasmine Bar. I understand that pork is back on the menu. I trust and hope it's local pork, my straight dog family. But that's the way we're going to do it. My time is done. I got to run. We're going to make way for the mayor of St. Paul's, Theophilus Theo Clark, who's in the studio. So don't you move your dial. I want to thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight. I want to thank you, the callers, you, the many listeners to ZIZ Radio. Again, I want you to get accustomed to sharing the feed because there have been some changes in terms of our social media streaming. Our streaming is done now on the Ian Patches Liburd Facebook page. Go to that page, look and enter Straight Talk with Ian Patches Liburd on Facebook and or YouTube. We'll remind you of that. But tell Saul to tell Paul to tell everyone. Tell your neighbor, tell your friend, so you can keep connected to Straight Talk as we continue our discussion. Until then, until Monday, until we connect again, be good to yourselves and to all whom you meet. Remember, whatever you might conceive, that you will achieve. But first of all, you just got to believe. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light. Thank Him for taking you to the night. And my Straight Dog family, keep moving on. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Until we connect on Monday.
In the morning, I thank God for the morning light. Give Him thanks and praises for taking me safely through the night.